And then I am pleased to introduce you to Bonnie Hoos, who is the lead study abroad advisor at UC Irvine. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Great, thank you so much. So thank you all for joining us across the UC system. This is definitely a very different kind of go abroad fair experience, but we're so excited because we get to reach all of our UC sister campuses, so it's very exciting. Today, hopefully, you will feel excited and motivated by the end of this to make sure you study abroad as a student at one of your UC campuses. We have three of us here today that are Latinx who've had experiences abroad that we hope to share with you all. Hopefully, you'll connect with one of us and know that this is an experience that is worth it, so worthwhile and amazing for everybody to experience. We're going to talk a little bit about the benefits we all gained from studying abroad, some of the challenges we faced, and we're going to go through options that you might have as a UC student to study abroad, costs, how it is affordable, housing, little things like that. But we will definitely have plenty of time at the end and leave opportunities for you all to ask questions. We want to make sure we can address those and help you. I have been here as an advisor for 20 years, so we have definitely a lot of experience in our office in terms of all types of students going abroad, obstacles to face, ways in which to make this a reality. I am an alum of the UC system as well. I graduated from UCI with my bachelor's degree. When I was a student here, a little bit about myself is I studied in Florence, Italy. So I will say that is one of our high popular destinations, at least at the UCI campus, but I think across all the UC system, Italy is a big place for people to want to study abroad. One of the biggest challenges that I faced is actually, it was the first time that I was going to be alone having an international experience. So like some of you on the call, potentially, my parents were born outside of the US. So my dad was born in Argentina and my mom was born in Ecuador. And then I was born here in the US. So I grew up with this sort of cultural mix, right, of hearing the language, understanding Spanish, hardly ever speaking it back, but I understood every single word that was being told to me. Didn't really know how to write it or read it or any of that. I always had this uh, very drawn excitement towards Italy and Italian language for some reason. Probably it is part of the Argentine heritage. But so I had traveled with my parents only ever before I studied abroad. I'd only really been to Argentina and Ecuador on family vacations, on visits that way. So deciding as an undergraduate at UC Irvine to go overseas to a foreign country by myself was a big step for me. Now, retrospect, I wish I would have gone a lot longer. I did a summer program and focused on learning the Italian language, which I don't regret, but now I do wish I was a psychology major when I was a student here at UCI. And I do wish I would have taken some psychology courses overseas. Now, as a professional in the field, I have gotten the opportunity to go overseas and explore institutions that we have through the UC Education Abroad program, UC EAP. And I've sat in on some psych courses now as a staff member, and I realized the benefits I would have gained from actually having taken courses in my field. But even despite all that, challenges I face, I mean, some of the things that I know I encounter from students is this language barrier. I was too afraid to use my Spanish in Spain or in Latin America and use it in a classroom setting, just because, like I mentioned, I was surrounded by it growing up, but I just didn't have that confidence in being able to use it in like a written language. But again, I do wish I would have pushed myself. And I'm sure I will ask later through a poll question. I'm sure there's some of you out there that are very strong with your Spanish language skills, and some of you who feel maybe like me, where it's like, I don't know if I could do it, being surrounded completely by the language. But it's worth it if you're open to it. At least here at UCI, you can always reach out to me and I'll convince you that you can do it. Your language skills will just skyrocket if you push yourself a little bit. But these couple pictures that I have on the screen too are, one of them is from my time abroad. The other one is as a staff member visiting later one of the programs in Costa Rica. I had so many benefits. One is that picture up there was my entire language class, a class of 5. Actually, the person taking the picture is missing, but I was an Italian intermediate level. This was my class. The male in the picture was the instructor. It was so hands-on. I learned so much Italian because it was such a small class. There are so many programs that way where your class sizes are just minuscule, very small. Our assignments were Our homework assignments were go out to the community, go to the grocery store, buy these things in Italian, understand the money, count to 10 while you're there, all these things that were just part of real life experience that really helped a lot. I know at UCI we have a very nice and strong Italian department, so I did take some courses here before I went, and that also helped me to be able to get into an intermediate level class overseas. So there's so many advantages. The biggest advantage to me though was my career. So I didn't even know that higher education was a career. I didn't know that working at a college campus was a possibility for me. It was just, I met with academic counselors. I thought I never really thought too much about it. But having studied abroad, entering the international education field, led me to this job at UCI, where I get to give back to the UC community, share my experiences, and it's a really fantastic field. I mean, I'm constantly talking about how it changes your life, how an international opportunity is so eye-opening to any field, anybody, not just psych majors, but all sorts of different majors. We're going to talk more about that later in the details, but I did want you to now meet a couple of our other panelists, and we have two other panelists, but I'm going to go ahead and start with Irene so she can help us know a little bit about her experiences. Irene, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Bonnie, for handing it over. So I'm a current senior at UCI, double majoring in criminology, law and society, and education sciences. And as you can tell from these pictures, I studied abroad in Rome, Italy, during my sophomore year of college. So I definitely went on the earlier side in comparison to most students who wait until their final years. But I wanted to go early on because I was too excited. I didn't want to put it off. I always knew I wanted to study abroad. Um, and some challenges that I faced on this journey were that I am a first gen student and I'm a low income student. So I didn't really know how to go about starting the process, which is totally normal if you've been feeling that way. My parents are from Mexico City. They've been in the US for over 30 years with an undocumented status. So because of my parents' undocumented status, we were unable to obtain global experiences together like maybe other families can. However, I did have the opportunity to do a lot of solo trips to Mexico to visit my family, and I loved it. I flew for the first time like without my parents with an uncle when I was like 6 years old, so I was little. And when I got to high school, I got to do a cultural exchange program in Japan, and that was unlike anything I've had ever experienced. I loved experiencing a brand new culture for the first time. So I was inspired to study abroad since my junior year of high school. But being first gen and low income, I didn't know how realistic it was or how to start the process. But once I got to UCI as a freshman, I just went to the Study Abroad Center. So I definitely will encourage you all to hit up your own centers on your campus because they really are there to provide you with that information and support. They really were able to break down the process for me, reassure me that it was possible to go early on, that I could take my financial aid with me so it wouldn't be an extra burden at all. And they were really supportive. So I'm really excited to be here and share a little bit about my experience having gone abroad, especially as a Latina. And if y'all have any questions for me or any of the panelists, please feel free to drop it below. Bonnie, did you want me to go into this right now? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that would be great.
Great. So some of the benefits that I reaped while studying abroad, like there's too many to say, but these are definitely my top two. The first one is I got to develop a lot as a young professional. I got to be an English teaching assistant at a local Italian middle school. So that top picture is some of my students. It was really, really cool to be put in this role because even though I already had previous leadership roles at school, this was being a leader in a foreign country. So as a Latina woman, my students were curious to know the details about me being American, but maybe not looking what they would consider a stereotypical American to look like, blonde and blue eyes. So I really got to share how diverse the US is, to clear up some misconceptions. Like they all asked me if I ate hamburgers and hot dogs every day, right? So I got to clear that up, and they got to teach me a lot about their culture as well, which is my second point. I experienced a lot of new culture. Like in the US, I grew up eating pizza, right? But when I got to Italy, I learned for the first time that they don't actually eat pizza with pineapple, and that they don't even cut it in slices, you know? So I got to learn a lot, and it was just really a good investment, because you can see on the right hand, that's my resume. Studying abroad is something that's at the very top, so it catches attention of employers or people who are reviewing my applications for things. And then also serving as an ETA is listed on there. And it's just something that helps set me apart even further, because a lot of employers want you to have the skills that studying abroad provides.
Thank you, Irene. And I am seeing some fun comments come in. So I'm glad that we're connecting with some of you, knowing that we're no different than the rest of you, right? Sometimes people think study abroad is for the world traveler, the person who's not afraid, the risk takers, but it's everybody, the risk takers, non-risk takers. We've definitely had students who've never been on an airplane before, students who've traveled a ton. So this experience is for every single UC person that is out there. And now let's go ahead and hear a little bit from Dahlia.
All right, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Irene, for sharing. Hi, everyone. My name is Dahlia. I am a first-generation college student from undocumented parents, originally from Mexico, and I am a fourth-year international study major. So I studied abroad in South Korea in the fall of 2018, in Chile in the fall of 2019, and in the Netherlands of spring of 2020. So I also had a kind of like a similar background to Irene, that my parents, because of their undocumented status, we were never able to do any international trips together. However, I also didn't really know I could study abroad, because as a first-gen student, I was really overwhelmed with the whole UC system and all the resources the school had to offer. So because of how overwhelmed I was, I never really looked into the opportunities I could do at UCI until one day I was walking on Ring Road, and during a study abroad center, during study abroad fall, what was it? Fair. The fair. They were talking about different programs, and someone yelled, "Take your scholarships abroad!" And I like stopped, and like I went back to the table, and I was like, "Can you repeat that?" And so then from there, I learned that I could take my scholarships abroad. And so ever since I learned that my main concern of scholarships has been quelled, I have tried going abroad every time I could. I mean, now I can no longer go abroad because I have to finish my degree, but I definitely loved it. And a few of the challenges I actually had also as a first gen was that because my parents were undocumented, and then because my parents are undocumented, they my dad was really against me going abroad. He was really concerned for my safety and my language learning, because I didn't know Korean the first exchange I did. I had no friends. Finances was a big thing. And so he wouldn't really tell me why he wouldn't let me go. He just kept saying, "No, you can't go, you can't go, you can't go." And I was like, "But why, Dad?" He wouldn't talk to me. And so I had to like sit him down and be like, "Okay, Dad, like we need to talk about this, because I'm going. Like I'm going, whether you like want me to go or not. I'm gonna do this, Dad." And so then he told me that his concerns were just really common concerns. And so I told him, "You know what? Yeah, it's okay to feel this way. Like I'm super scared of going too, Dad, but I'm super excited to be able to do this as well." And so, I told them that I'm going to be taking a language course abroad. And so he was a little bit less concerned about my language. He's like, "What about friends?" And I was like, "I made a bunch on Facebook. It's okay. Like I won't be alone as soon as I get there." But yeah, so those were a few of his concerns and why he just wouldn't let me go. And then the finances, I applied to every scholarship I qualified for. I didn't win any of them except for one, but that one scholarship I did win was enough to finance my whole study abroad in Korea. And then, so yeah, so we're on the slide now. For some of the greatest benefits I had was actually in Chile when I did an internship. I was a project intern for FIMA, which stands for Fiscalía del Medio Ambiente. It's an environmental prosecutor NGO, which is a non-governmental organization. And so over the span of 4 months, I actually worked over 140 hours analyzing the linguistic choices and environmental protections and rights in state constitutions. So that was really fun, but I also experienced a social crisis in Chile. So actually recently they've just voted for a new constitution, which is really nice because it's been about a year of the protests that have just nonstopped since I was there. But yeah, so because of the social crisis, I was really scared to be in Chile. The first few weeks, I didn't want to leave my house. The news made it seem like the purge was going on all around me, and I was like, "I don't want to be here." I was like, "What do I do? What do I do?" But I realized that like when I would leave my house, it wasn't as loud or as scary as the news would make it seem. I lived about 10 minutes from where all the action was happening. So I was constantly smelling the tear gas, constantly hearing the protesters, and I was like, "I don't really want to be a part of this just yet." But then me and my friends decided to go watch. We're like, you know, what is actually happening? Like the news is saying this. Our friends are like saying, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go. But we ended up going, and the protests were a lot more peaceful than the news made them out to be. That's when I learned to maybe I should kind of experience it and see things for myself than just kind of accept what I'm seeing as the only truth. And so that experience actually helped me become flexible and adaptable. Like the state policies were changing really quickly as the military was coming in, as we had a set schedule for the night, like curfew. And so that was really difficult. But because I am considering becoming a foreign service officer, a diplomat in the future, this experience is really beneficial for me to consider that, you know, am I really fit for this career in the future or not? There's no guarantee that I'll be going to countries that are like that have a civil political community. And so this experience was definitely beneficial to me. You know what? I can actually do this. If I really want to do this, this is something I will definitely consider for the future. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I think when you go abroad, you face a lot of challenges. And this is probably the biggest thing that students say. This is why we're studying abroad, and this is why we've grown so much from these experiences. Like I mentioned before, I hadn't gone alone. So being just even dropped off at LAX airport here in the Los Angeles area was huge for me. I had never handled my own passport, right? I just relied heavily on my parents I just followed them around with my suitcase in the past. And then you go abroad, you read signs in foreign languages like Dahlia. I mean, she's been to at least 3 different study abroad experiences. I'm sure she could attest to how different Chile was from Korea. Even just in all of that. And we've had a lot of students say the hands-on experiences they gained were far outweighed any other sort of fear they had before they went abroad. And actually, a lot of those fears come up before you go. It's the unknowns. When you're actually in it, life actually gets smoother. We orient you before you go. You attend webinars. You get to know other people, like Dahlia mentioned, through Facebook now or through Zooms, but you are connected. And some students even say they made the closest friends they've ever had during their study abroad experience. They have some great UC friends they've had, you know, here in college, but going abroad, there is something that kind of brings people together in a unique and different kind of way. And I imagine that's the case for our panelists. But we'll come back to that. All right, let's see what else we have. So the options you have as a UC student, it's incredible. There are programs in almost every country of the world, top institutions around the world. So you have access to some universities that locals may not even have as open access to, where the locals have to take very rigorous exams to get in. Because you're in a UC system, you get to participate and take courses at those top institutions. You have top institutions in poli-sci like Sciences Po in France, just all over, usually ranked 1, 2, 3 around the world. Programs for all majors. So again, there's a lot of myths out there about study abroad that it's only really for social sciences, humanities, those kinds of things and fields. But no, STEM majors, every major, no matter what it is, has the opportunity to study abroad. Nursing majors, pharmaceutical science majors, all of them, and minors. You can choose programs for either a summer, a quarter, a semester. Some go back to back every summer. Some students do, they can't choose a country, so they do fall one country, spring another country. And then this key piece, English or Spanish or lots of languages are available. Let me pull up poll. Oops, that's not. Okay, let's see. It's in a different area. Okay, here we go. I'm going to poll all of you just to get a sense of your language skills. So I'm going to launch the poll. Do you have Spanish language skills? Yes or no? And you have faith in using them. It just means you know Spanish, you know some Spanish. Awesome. I love this. This is great. I'll give a second more. Okay, I will share the results so you can see of each other. There's about 50 of you on this call, and almost 100% of you have some type of Spanish language skill. First of all, that's fantastic. You already know 2 languages that you can use overseas, that you can use in your life, if not potentially even more, because I didn't poll you on your other, others. Sorry. So as I mentioned earlier, highly advise you to really think a lot about it or reach out to your campus staff so we can advise you. You should highly consider studying in a country that speaks Spanish. So there's tons of options in Latin America and there's options in Europe. At this point, I believe that would be it. But if you find a program that offers Spanish language in another location, that's fantastic. There are programs even where you can choose to do maybe a couple of your courses in Spanish and then a couple courses in English. So those are perfect too for students who are a little bit iffy. Okay, I'm going to take one major course in Spanish, the rest will be in English. But again, there's many options in English, not just in the UK and Australia. You can go to Italy, you can go to Korea, you can go to Hong Kong, you can go to Argentina. There's many options where the language of instruction is in English. They perhaps will teach you the language while you're there as well, but that's a big one. Highly consider it. There's also this option, the second bullet from the bottom, signing up for one term and extending to a full year. So taking it from people now who have studied abroad, I was nervous, so I signed up for a summer program. Now I wish I would have done at least a semester, if not a whole year. So if you're open to that idea, sign up straight for the full year. You won't regret it. You're going to love it. If you're a little bit iffy, maybe sign up for the term, the quarter or the semester. There's many options where once you're on the ground, you're taking your courses, you'll learn to love it. You'll say, oh yeah, I can do this. This is definitely worth it. And you can extend your stay for the rest of the time on that program. So again, it's sort of like non-committal. You don't have to commit for the whole year, but we have definitely students who go for one term, like a fall semester, and say, I wish I would have signed up for the next term because that's just when I started getting comfortable with everybody, understanding the system, making my friends, and then I had to leave. I would have loved to have one more term. I just understood how to sign up for classes in Chile. Now I have to go. So things like that. And then in terms of housing, you get to, and for many of the programs, you have options. You can live with a family, you can live in an apartment or a dorm setting. Very few programs have hotels, but there are some of those, especially if they're shorter programs. And so in some, for example, you get to live with the host family. You get to eat, the home cooked Italian meals. You get to walk around and participate, attend weddings with the locals because their family's going. There's so many amazing things from all the opportunities, even in the apartments. Maybe you're living with people from all over the world, not just UC students. So I'm going to have Irene and Dahlia. I had some questions for you. Let's see, Irene, first, if I go back to some courses, did you take some unique courses that fulfilled requirements for you, and share a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. So this image on this slide is actually mine. That's Professor Paolo. He was my art history / architecture professor. And it was a really amazing class because instead of meeting in the traditional classroom that we're all used to, we would be meeting on site. So inside of museums, inside of churches, in front of these beautiful historical monuments. And then he would give us lecture in these places. So we would literally be able to look at exactly what he was talking about. So we'd be standing, sitting, taking notes for 2 to 3 hours, which was a really cool experience. Because I learned a lot about the environment that I wouldn't have known if I had just gone on my own as a tourist. Like I was really immersed in gaining deep knowledge of art and like these significant places in Italy. And then on top of that, I took an urban studies class, which counted directly for one of my major requirements. And it was really cool because we also had a couple of field trips and I got to do a project on a local neighborhood and analyze how the layout of the city it was in comparison to that neighborhood. And then of course, my Italian language class, like yours, Bonnie, it was kind of small, not as small, 5 people, but like maybe 20 tops. And it was a really nice change because I had gotten used to taking these huge classes at school here in the US. So it was nice to have that small classroom setting to get to know my peers on a more personal basis and as well as the professor.
Thank you, Irene. Dahlia, can you share a little bit about your experience using Spanish in Chile? Because I imagine 98% of us on this call speak Spanish. You might have questions about what it was like.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a heritage speaker, Spanish speaker, so I have really no formal language except for AP Spanish in high school. That was all the Spanish I've ever taken. I don't really quite use it other than just at home, so my like knowledge of Spanish is really limited. But so yeah, I went to the study abroad center. I didn't get into the program I wanted, but then I actually talked to Bonnie, and she was like, "Well, you can use Spanish here. That'd be great." And I was like, "You know what? Let's sign me up. Let's sign me up for that program." But so the program actually required Spanish. It required level 2B, and I was like, "Bonnie, I haven't taken a language test. I haven't taken any Spanish classes." She was like, "Don't worry, like you can still go on this program." And so I ended up going on the program, and it actually had an intensive language program for a month right before the semester actually started in Chile. And in that ILP course, I was with about 8 other students. There were 2 levels. There was the intermediate and the advanced. And so I'm really happy I made it to the native level. But in that intensive course, I learned a lot about Spanish, like academically written in Chile, like the tildes, all the accents, which like which form of ser is the one you should be using. And I also learned a lot about the culture in that program. And it was just a month, and it was like really quickly. It was about 4 weeks, 3 weeks, I think it was actually. But we also learned a lot about Chilenismos. So I don't know if you guys know, but Chileans speak with a lot of slang. When I first got to Chile, I was like, you know what, it's fine. Like I speak Spanish, I'll be okay. You know, it's fine. But the first few days, everywhere I went, I was like, what are they saying to me? Like, is this actually Spanish? Like, did I not get the memo? And then I learned that they were just speaking in slang. But in that course, we learned a lot about Chilenismos, and I actually kept a little booklet throughout my whole stay because I would go back to the page, like, what is that word they use? I'm like, what does this mean? But yeah, so the program actually required level 2B of Spanish, and I didn't have that level, but I still went on the program. However, the course I was in for Spanish was actually counted for level 2C. And so I actually sent that back to my study abroad, no, my academic advisor at the School of Social Sciences, and I told them, does this count for anything? Does this language course count for anything? And he was like, actually it counts for level 2C. And I was like, all right, let's clear that up. And then I mean, I basically saved 5 courses of Spanish that I didn't know I could save on. But that's a little proud moment for me. But I mean, it was definitely difficult to take classes in Spanish just because I was not using it academically as much as I used my English. But again, it's just being out there. It's just practicing your Spanish. Like my Spanish is still kind of choppy now, but compared to what it was before I went to Chile, like I'm so glad I went there. Everything was in Spanish. I was forced to practice my Spanish regardless of where it was. When I was with my host family, when I was in my apartment with my friends, no one spoke English, so I was only using Spanish with them. And then any moment I could speak English, I was like, finally, like I can fully communicate this time. But it took I was there for 6 months, so definitely it took 5 months for me to be comfortable speaking in Spanish, but that was just for me. But I mean, it was definitely a challenge to take classes in Spanish, but it was well worth it because I made a lot of friends and I definitely learned how to communicate.
And another huge benefit for most of you is if you gain that confidence, if you're not already confident with your Spanish, you will come back more confident. And on your resume, you're not just going to put small little note conversational Spanish. You're going to put fluent Spanish speaker, strong, they're going to see your study abroad Chile at the top of your resume under education, right? And for many fields, just having a second language can up your salary. And there's all kinds of studies. I don't have any that I'm quoting here, but when I went on for job interviews in the psychology field, I got interviews because I simply had Spanish big and bold at the top. And then I always had a different pay scale. Oh, you're a Spanish speaker, you're entering this other pay scale. That's awesome. 98% of you have the advantage of an alternate pay scale, an increased pay scale, especially if you're going to live here in Southern California. Can I have Irene and Dahlia, both of you, quickly share a little bit about your housing experiences? Who did you live with and where?
Yes, totally. So Dahlia, if you do want to check the chat so you can clarify that once you're up next. But for me, I studied abroad again for the fall semester. So I only missed 1 quarter of UCI, but I arrived there earlier than I would have started school here at the UC. I arrived at the very end of August and I was there until mid-December. And I got to live with other UC students in an apartment, which was really cool because not only did I get to make international friends, but I got to make other friends from California. So I got to widen my professional network even here at home while I was abroad. Like I was living with other students in different academic fields from UCLA, UCSB. And it was just a really cool experience, especially for me because I didn't have like that typical first year dorming experience of getting to live with complete strangers. Like I lived with people I already knew. So it was really fun to go through that and experience Italy together and like commuting together and coming back after a night out together. Like it was really a really great experience.
So I'll go ahead too. So for my program in Chile, while I was in the intensive language program for 3 weeks, so before the semester started, I stayed with the host family, and so the program actually set that up for us. We fill out this form, and they try to find us a family that kind of matches with our personalities and what we kind of want to do in Chile. And so I had my family, and I stayed with them for about a month. And so again, they didn't speak any English, so that was great language practice for me because I was forced to always talk in Spanish or play charades with them, but they didn't really like the charades, so I had to like just Google everything each time I talked to them. But so they would cook me all my meals. I'd come home from doing my language intensive program, and then I'd come eat with them. I'd have dinner and lunch with them, and then we talk about what I learned in class, the cultural experiences I had learned in class. I asked them how they celebrate their holidays, what the specific culture does, or how do you like eat certain foods. But they were really kind, and I'm really happy I stayed with them. However, I did want my own personal space, and so I decided to leave. And so you don't have to leave your host family. Like a lot of my friends, they stay with their host families, and so that's cool too. You know, you work out some kind of like rent system with your host family after. But because I wanted my personal space, I decided to leave. And so then I found an apartment. I found the group on Facebook. But yeah, so I found an apartment, and my housemates, again, they didn't speak any English. So, I mean, there was an Italian boy who did speak English, but I was like, no, you have to learn Spanish too, because my friends from France and my friend from Mexico, they're like, they can only speak in Spanish, and I don't want to exclude them. But that was definitely great because I didn't really know them as much when I first got there. Like, it was nice to say hi to them, nice to be like, oh, what are you eating? What are you doing today? But it wasn't actually until the social crisis started and we were kind of stuck inside that I actually got to know them more. So I'm really thankful again that, you know, it was scary in the moment to be part of the social crisis. However, looking back at it, like I was part of a historical moment for Chile, and I even got to like become best friends with my housemates. And I don't know if I would have become as close with them if it was not for the social crisis. But yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, we will now go on to affordability. So one of the other major things for students or obstacles that some students think is part of study abroad is it's too expensive, but we're here honestly telling you it doesn't have to be, and it's not. There are many programs where the cost is comparable to studying at a UC. Yes, there are some programs that cost more. Like if you're going to choose a program in London or Tokyo, typically those can cost a little more. The living cost of the location you're going to makes an impact on your program. But there are definitely programs where they're similar or even less. So we have students going to Korea, and if we compare it to their fees and tuition at UCI, it costs less, especially a whole year. But spring semester costs less than studying here at UCI for the equivalent amount of time. Singapore is another one. The other great thing is full financial aid goes with you. So if you receive a great financial aid package already, this is definitely the time for you to consider going abroad. Don't waste the fact that it will go with you. It gets adjusted to the cost of your program. So if you did choose London and the program is higher, your aid will get adjusted so you can cover the entire cost of that particular program. So it is one of the main reasons we are highly, highly encouraging of students go now. This is the time. For many, it's one of the easiest times to go, few less things to worry about, and your full financial aid, as well as scholarships. So of course, there's a lot of scholarships that you can maybe even you already receive and you can take it with you, but there are specific study abroad scholarships that we encourage you to apply to. And your competition pool tends to be smaller because it's study abroad students, not all college students across the entire US or world. And I believe both Irene and Dahlia both received scholarships and potentially financial aid. So if you both can talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, so I'll start us off. I applied to 3 scholarships on top of the financial aid package that I was already receiving, which was honestly really good. But I applied for 3 and I received 2 out of those 3. So one was through UCEAP, the program provider itself. That was $2,000 that I was granted. And then I applied for another scholarship directly to the study abroad office on my campus. And that was another $1,000 and 500. So that was really, really helpful in covering even extra cost. I honestly didn't pay for anything out of pocket. Like I did because I'm like a spender. Like I love splurging on like treats and things like that, but it wasn't anything for the program itself, like housing or tuition, that I had to cover. It was already taken care of with my financial aid package, which included grants and scholarships only. I did not take out any loans, and then those scholarships.
Yeah, so I also got one scholarship when I went to Korea. I had applied to all the scholarships I qualified for. I did this for all the programs, but I wasn't as lucky as I was for Korea. When I went to Korea, I only got one scholarship, which was the Gilman Scholarship, but that was a scholarship of $4,000. And so that was more than enough to cover all of my expenses when I was in Korea. So I did a lot of traveling. I went out to eat a lot. I loved going to cafes. I did a bunch of that, and that scholarship really paid for all of that. I even went to Japan. Like, that scholarship was enough. But however, when I was in Chile, I did take out a few loans because Chile was a lot more expensive than I was initially anticipating. And like Irene, I am a splurger. However, I'm not good at keeping track of my own finances. And so I kind of had a price to pay at the end. But again, like, I had a great time in Chile that I honestly think the loans were worth it. So if I could do the program again, I would take more loans and do it again.
Awesome, thank you. Somebody posted a question. We'll address some links at the end to find information about scholarships and opportunities like this. It's probably going to vary, or somebody answered. Yeah, it's going to vary across the UC system, but we can show some links. Okay. And so the how to study abroad, right? So I'm sure many of you are on this call because you're teetering on the fence, but it is possible. Hearing us, it's possible for you to go abroad. And even during the time of COVID, the question on that. And while some things have definitely changed and some programs have been canceled and closed, summer 2021 and beyond, we are crossing fingers. That is currently what we're recruiting for and hoping that by then travel will resume. If you're a freshman or a sophomore, you have even more time, so perfect. For the rest of you, if you're getting close to graduation, reach out to your UC campus though, because there are opportunities even after graduation. So for some reason, COVID isn't done and travel isn't open, there are many ways for you to still go overseas, whether you study or you have a job or research or experiences like that that are not just vacation, because vacation is great, but having an experience like working, volunteering, researching, studying, those are going to be very unique. You become part of the local culture. So reach out to your UC campus for information on that. But in the meantime, this is how you study abroad. What you're going to want to do is spend some time exploring your UC campus study abroad websites. Every website's different, so check out your UC campus. Every UC has different offerings and different deadlines and different details. Some campuses, most of them do have virtual advising appointments. So if you're a UC Irvine person on the call, you can set up an appointment to meet with any of us here that are on this Zoom today. Peer advisors, Dahlia and Irene are both our student peer advisors. I'm a staff advisor and we have a few available, but I'm pretty sure most of the UC campuses have some kind of virtual appointment available to you. The key thing here, bullet 3, it takes time. So not only plan, but you want to plan ahead, apply ahead of time. It's not just, okay, you apply this month, you go next month. It's a good 6 to 9 months process ahead of time. Deadlines might be this quarter or next, early in winter, and you're not going until summer or fall. So it can take time. You don't want to miss those deadlines. It's very, very important. We can't guarantee that late applications can be accepted. And then you attend pre-departure webinars. So there's a lot of really good information for you to fill out, housing questionnaires, all kinds of details about health insurance that you'll talk to your families about and all of that. But we also prepare you getting to know students. The UCP program is one of our biggest study abroad options, and they have webinars where you get to know the local staff. And it's been a little bit easier now because of virtual life. Everything's on Zoom and through webinars. So you can ask as many questions as you want of all the staff. And then you go abroad, then you come back, and we help you with the adjustment process too, for when you're back and you're missing your that country and you want to explore more. And like Dahlia, send you abroad a couple more times so that you can get that under your belt. But that is the how. Let's see. Okay. All right, and what time is it? Perfect. So that was our overall of who we are, study abroad, how we want to make sure that this is a possibility for you. But we have time right now before I close off with a final poll and final statements to answer questions that you all have. Some are coming in here on the chat, and I think we'll go through them piece by piece. You're also welcome to unmute yourself if you wish. And remember, you're being recorded, but it's okay. If you want to ask us any questions live, we can do that as well. And I will scroll up a little bit and see what questions maybe we missed, and then we'll rotate. Okay, so there were some scholarship questions, and I was going to show some links. It is so different for every UC campus. So I would say go to your UC Study Abroad website, and most of them will have a very easy access link that's either finances or scholarships. I know at UCI, we have a section under finances with a whole chart that explains very good scholarships you can apply for. Somebody mentioned something called Gilman. It's the Benjamin Gilman scholarship that Dahlia mentioned. And you can also just Google search Benjamin Gilman Study Abroad scholarship. They have deadlines on their own websites, portals you have to apply through. You can also reach out to your UC campus like Irvine does. We will help you review statements of purpose. We will help you try to make the strongest application possible for you, because we know some of the things they're looking for, and we want our students to get funding and make this opportunity a reality for you. So we're not just study abroad advisors. Yeah, you should go to Italy, but we want to really work through the entire process for you and with you. So feel free to reach out. Irene, do you want to take the next question that you might see there?
Yes, I do see that we have a variety, so bear with us, please. If we don't get to it, just ask it again in case it got lost up there somewhere. But somebody asked, how does study abroad affect our major classes? Will I fall behind if I decide to go abroad spring quarter, for example? That's a great question, but remember that it's called studying abroad, so you're still going to be taking classes, therefore you're still going to be making progress towards your degree. It's just a matter of finding a program that will offer you the types of classes you're wanting to take. So whether that's more of your GEs, classes for your major or your minor, just narrowing down the search to include that field of study. That way you can ensure that you're kind of taking some classes in the area you want. But like I said, you can take classes for your major or minor or your GEs, but you're still going to be making progress while you're away. And you won't fall behind because you're still making progress. Like you can already see, Dahlia's gone abroad 3 times and is still gonna hopefully graduate within her 4-year time frame. And I'm a double major, also gonna graduate. I could have graduated early, but I'm gonna pick up a minor. So it's definitely possible to move forward while being abroad. And I don't know if Dahlia wants to take the next question or add on to that.
Yeah, I'd like to add on first to that. So I did study abroad 3 times, and the reason why I also found it intensive studying abroad 3 times was because I was also continuing taking courses for my degree. And so each abroad took a lot of planning because I had to make sure I could take the courses for my major. But I was able to do both. I was able to take the courses for my major to continue the progress of my degree, and I was also studying abroad. And so it was difficult, but planning is super, super important. The earlier you start, the better it is for you. It's less stressful. I also did things last minute, and that was so stressful. But yeah, so you continue. So long as you plan it, you can honestly kill so many birds with just one stone. And then I think the next question that I had saw was it difficult keeping up with the academic rigor of classes that were in different languages? So I also took a Korean language class. That one was really difficult, a lot more difficult than the Spanish class. It was just as intensive, but because I didn't have prior knowledge to the language, it was so much difficult. But in Spanish, you just kind of get used to it. Like it definitely took the first week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. But it's why it's also important to make friends in your classes. Just be like, oh, hi, I'm Dahlia. Like, where are you studying? Like, I'm studying abroad. Where are you from? Are you from here? And then talk about like, oh, this course seems kind of difficult. And then like you just start getting to know people, exchange contact info. And then that also really helps to have someone in the class, kind of support you if you have a similar background of like not being native Spanish speakers or like studying abroad. It helps if people are like, I'm also like learning how to take courses, university level classes in Spanish. And so it really helps.
Great. I will address a couple of questions that I'm seeing that are related to timing. So can I go summer freshman year? What about trans students? So the key thing to keep in mind is first to really think about your academic plan. So on the UC Irvine website, have tools for of academic planning forms, blank ones. You all may have your own way and method of figuring out, without study abroad, what is your plan this year, next year until you graduate? And then is trying to figure out when is the best time to plug in study abroad based on that plan. Every UC campus has study abroad advisors to help you with this piece. So when you start thinking through your major and you say, okay, I'm a transfer student, I have limited time, I believe fall is for me to go next year right before graduating, you can meet with our advisors and we can help you find a program that would fit into that time frame. For some, it is maybe summer of your right after freshman year. Some maybe it's this upcoming summer, maybe it's next fall. It really does depend on your major, where you are, but your advisors at your campus are also there to help make that plan, to help you figure it out, because it's not the same for everybody. Freshmen and transfer, though, should start planning right away. Even, there's never too early, and for transfers, you want to try to get so you have all the options available to you. Okay, and then I'll do one other quick one that was about scholarships. There are many scholarship students already receive that can carry you to your abroad program. Not every single one, so you do want to make sure you reach out to your scholarship committees or whoever your contacts are and ask. But many of them, because you're still studying and you're still a UC student when you go abroad, they still apply in many, many cases. There are some sports scholarships, for example, that might not apply because you have to be playing the sport. But if you can make a case and find a university where you can play the sport, like if you play soccer and you go to Spain, you can play soccer, they might allow you to keep that scholarship. So imagine playing soccer in Europe. It's out of this world, I think. I'm a soccer fan. So, all right, Irene, do you want to take a couple more?
Yes, totally. Let's see which ones we haven't touched on yet.
There's a parent question, parents who are iffy and don't want us to go abroad. Any tips for them?
Yeah, so I think it's just a matter of explaining why you want to go abroad and what the benefits you're going to get are, because maybe sometimes parents don't really get what you're going to be doing. They're like, why are you going over there? Like, are you even going to be taking classes? So really informing them on what you're going to be doing, like the classes, the opportunities you're going to have, and kind of trying to sell it to them in that way, because it really is a long-term investment. So definitely try to get those points across. Personally, my parents were already used to the idea since I did the Japanese cultural exchange program in high school. Like, they knew I wanted to go away again. So if Dahlia wants to share any additional tips on how she helped convince her parents.
Yeah, so my mom, she was sold. When I told her about the benefits, she was like, great, like that sounds like a lot of fun. But my dad was really like, he was against it for sure. There's a saying in Spanish, es mejor pedir perdón que permiso. Like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. And so, I had signed up and my dad was really against it. However, for him, I found that it was best to kind of learn what his concerns were and address those concerns specifically. So for him, it was my safety, it was my lack of knowledge of the Korean language, it was being alone. And so I kind of just talked to him about that, about how these concerns are like they're super valid, Dad. Like, I understand your concern for my safety being abroad. And I know one of the things he said to me was like, why would you go to Korea if you had spent all this time going to UC Irvine? And I was like, Dad, it's a stepping stone. It's okay. Like Irvine was like the gate, and now I can do whatever, But it definitely just depends on your parent. And I recommend you kind of seeing, do they want to hear more about the benefits that you can gain from going abroad, or are they more concerned with finances? Like, just kind of doing some research and explaining it to them to kind of calm them down, to show them that you know what you're doing, at least in that sense, can be really helpful to getting them on board for your adventures abroad.
And the last piece I would say is again, you have the staff. You have staff that you can connect with. You can set up a virtual appointment with, like myself. I talked to parents before as well. So especially if you join the call, because we can't just talk to parents only, but if you yourself set up a call with your parent, we can go through the benefits with them and say, listen, it isn't a vacation. Yes, it is fun, and the student will have a lot of adventures and fun times, but it is academic. So they are getting, and they will get, those grades on their UC transcript. And that is the difference. That is why they're getting cultural insights while in a learning and academic environment. A test can be taken overseas and things like that. So I've talked to many parents to kind of go through that and alleviate fears and concerns and provide the reasons why it's important for more of our young people to go overseas, get this exposure to new ways of thinking and perspectives, carry forward in their professional life. There's all kinds of studies I could share parents about, the increase of study abroad students, the increased time of getting a job in comparison to non-students. Jobs out there are hard to get, but students tend to get them faster. So there's a lot of really good things. I know we're cutting it a little bit close. I'm not seeing the chat any my side for some reason, but oh, there we are. I don't see any more questions, at least that we've missed. I would like to allow a little time for Irene and Dahlia to share some final thoughts about why you think it's worth it for them, for everybody who's on the call, to take advantage of being abroad. And then I have a couple poll questions that I'll end with, and let's go with that. Irene and Dahlia, can you share your final thoughts with everyone?
Yeah, I actually did see one question, Bonnie, if you want to address that in the chat, asking if there are scholarships available for non-citizenship students. So if you could provide that insight in the chat for everyone while I wrap up. But yes, I just wanted to say that studying abroad is really one of my favorite experiences. I've done a lot of different things. I'm really involved on campus, but when you go abroad, it's a brand new experience and it really opens your eyes to what's outside of the US. And I know that I really appreciated that. And it's so much that I decided to work as a peer advisor. This is my second year trying to encourage other students to go abroad. So no matter where you go, you're not going to regret it. You're going to have the best time. And you may be like worried about missing out here, but trust me, everyone here is missing out on what you're going to do abroad. I remember everyone would look at my posts and ask me if I was even in school, but I was, and so it's just a really unique experience that no one can fully understand unless they do it, which is why we're always getting clowned for being those people who always talk about their time abroad, right? Like on social media, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah, going off of what Irene said, yeah, it's totally true. I have a lot of aunts who Facebook message me like, "Are you still in school? Did you drop out?" And I'm like, "No, no, I'm studying abroad." But yeah, just going off is that something I personally didn't know is that you grow so much while being abroad. You're constantly learning every single day, and that you don't even notice how much you've learned and how much you've changed until you return. And sometimes that growth can be uncomfortable, and it can be scary to leave the safety of what you know. But flowers don't grow overnight. So long as you're willing to like take care of yourself, take care of like being open-minded, like studying abroad is an experience you will not regret. So I definitely, if you have the time to add it into your academic career, I 10 out of 10, 15 out of 10 recommend to do it.
And don't be shy about asking any questions you have, of your UC campus office. That's what I'll say is bring up any concern you had. I recall now that somebody said they had dietary concerns. We've sent students with all kinds of different concerns. You can go ahead. We might just give you tips. We might recommend maybe you don't go to Argentina if you're a vegetarian because they hardly have vegetables. They mostly have meat, but you can still make it work. We've sent vegetarians to Spain, Argentina, and places that have meat. There's just all kinds of ways to work around uh, all kinds of situations that you might have. So don't be shy to ask, okay? I have a couple poll questions to end the session with, but I did want to say that I appreciate all of you coming to this call, taking the time out to get to know a little bit about us. I know we represent the UC system as a whole. We are very close in the UC system. Everybody, Irene, Dahlia, you've met UC campus returnees. You have friends at each UC. So this isn't just an Irvine session. It's for all of you to know that this is a possibility. It's well worth it. We're all very excited to in the future see your names potentially on our list of students who are about to go abroad and orient you. And hopefully we'll see some of you even on our own Zoom calls coming up. But I will close out with a couple polls, and thank you again, everybody. So I'll read the poll to you too. So if you could take a second or two to answer this one. After this session, are you less likely, neutral, more likely to learn about studying abroad, or to learn abroad, to study abroad? Awesome. And then poll number 2. did this session answer all of your questions? If not, please email us. So if you're an Irvine student, this is the email address for us. You can message us from the other UC campuses too, especially if you wanted follow-ups about the programs that Reen and Dahlia did, or myself. We may direct you to your home sister campus for anything else, but you're welcome to start with us or however you want. And we also hope you will take advantage of all the other sessions that are happening through UC Glow. There's so many opportunities for you to find out about these experiences from returnees from other diversity topics and areas to very specific things about finances and academics. So enjoy the week. Stay safe, everybody. If anybody's in the Irvine area, stay very safe. There's some fires going on. And that's it. Thank you all. Jenny, did you have anything else to add, or are we good to go?
We are good to go. Thank you so much, everyone. This concludes our session. I will stop recording. Thank you.